vent with us about the latest AI hype, you can check it out. But so now I'm going to give the stage. So in the spirit of distributed systems and collaborations, one of the organizations we collaborate with is Lesson. And so I'm going to have Asma talk a little bit about what Lesson is.
All right. Thank you so much, Simini. So my name is Asma Hadgu. I'm the co-founder and CTO of Lesson. I'm also a fellow at the Distributed AI Research Institute, or DARE. So here I'm going to talk about Lesson in particular. So at Lesson, our mission is to open up the web's content for millions of people in their language, starting with our languages, my native languages Tigrinya, so starting from those languages. So we're at the Deep Learning Indaba, so I thought I would just give at least a couple of highlights of how we kind of build these things. And here we're looking at our pipeline for how we build our mission translation systems. So we tap into both online and offline sources. We do processing depending on the sources. We follow scraping online sources, parsing, cleaning, and alignment. Or we tap into offline sources such as books and magazines, scan for these languages at the time. And also here we show Lesson outperforms Microsoft, which was the only one that supported Tigrinya at the time. If you want to read a bit more about that, here's the paper, Lesson Machine Translation for Low Resource Languages. And I have a small demo of our web application.
Can you guys play the video over there? Can you just press play? Oh, excellent.
Oh, perfect. So what we see here is the interface to Lesson's web application. Here I am taking a snippet from Wikipedia about science, and it's automatically translating it to Tigrinya. So you see that this was a backup just in case the video didn't work. Oh, I had one slide. That's fine. I just wanted to highlight. I feel like we're part of this community movement of AI researchers and practitioners in our continent that are trying to solve these hard problems of language technologies, and I feel like we have that momentum, and I believe we can. Thank you. So I'm gonna introduce Paul, who has done an amazing job on Ghanaian languages, and we're in Ghana, and I'll let him speak for that. All right.
Thank you, Asmi. Give it up for Asmi, please. Come on, clap your hands. For the job they're doing, putting the languages in the Horn of Africa on the map. My name is Paul Azunre. I co-founded an organization called Ghana NLP. And essentially, a couple years ago, we noticed with some of my colleagues that nobody was addressing Ghanaian languages in terms of translation, text to speech, speech to text, and all of that. So we actually built some of the world's first systems in this before Google, Facebook, or anybody else. And we still outperform them in a lot of applications that you care about, not in everything, but in colloquial speech, which is what you care about, right, when you speak to each other every day. So without much ado, I'll just show some demos so you can see what we have built. So right now, our systems handle the following languages: Twi, Dagbani, Ewe, Ga, Gorne, which is Frafra. We've also recently collaborated with a group at the Harvard African Language School. They're from Kenya. So we were able to add the world's first Kikuyu translator, Kimeru, and Luo. We also have Yoruba. So please, can you play the first video? Can you turn up the volume a bit? So this person is speaking Twi, and this has been translated. I think he said Asembeba Debi. Midin de Kofi. And this is like a demo of speech to text, right? ASR. Nukra, I think that's what he said. The volume's a little low, so. Okay, so this is ASR. Can you play the next one? Hopefully the volume will be better on this. Okay, we've also built an API, so if anybody is in the room and they want to
This is Ghana NLP. So
build your own applications.
Mobile applications for iOS and Android, and also web applications that you can use in your browser for translating. So we do have a very exciting release of a translation API that can be used by various organizations, developers, researchers. Give you the ability to be able to develop your own applications or solutions around this translation solution that Ghana NLP has. So my name is Joel. I'm the Director of Engineering in Ghana NLP, and so in order to access the API, you can visit the portal, which is translation.ghananlp.org. Sign up and create an account. But I'll just go ahead to sign text translation REST API. There's the basic package. There's a developer package. There's Enterprise, Pay-as-you-go, Pro Standard, based on your use case, depending on the quota that you would want to have access to. For example, if you want to, try it for free, we have a developer tier, which gives you a free monthly quota of 100 calls. It accepts a JSON. We have a very easy way of integrating the API into your applications. When you scroll down here, you would see various programming languages and how you would implement an API call in either of them. So then you can easily access whether it's for Python, there's some Python code here you can use. If it's for JavaScript, you can easily use this sort of template code for your test API request. So the two parameters that are needed is the input string, which is in, and then the language tag, which describes the source and then the target language, English to Twi, Ewe, Dagbani, or Yoruba, or vice versa. What you would also need to add is your subscription key. Just going to type in a very simple string, which is copy is going to school tomorrow. So that's translated. Says Kofi Report School option. It's really simple and easy to use.
So yeah, you can try this right now. That was Joel. He leads the engineering team. If you are interested in learning more about this technology or contributing to it, we are open to everybody. So please come join us. The API exists to fund our research. Okay, so because let's say relatively less money is invested in what we care about, so we have to find ways to make it self-sustaining. So when you support our API, you support the future of Ghanaian AI, so please give it a try. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you can come visit our booth at Dare if you want these lovely hats, or I'm not wearing a t-shirt, but if you want some swag and want to learn more, yeah.
I give a talk on Ghana NLP on Friday, so please come and learn more. I'm going to show exactly how we did everything, and advice I know a lot of people are trying to do this in their own countries, so I'll tell you how we did it. Maybe you can learn something. Thank you.
All right, that was a nice presentation from Timnit and the team. If there's any question, we can take one or two. Is there any question? Nice. So for the next presentation, thank you, team. But for the next presentation, we're going to go directly to Giz, Mary. Mary. Can I have Mary Afram? May I have somebody at the door check the booth? Mary Afram, Gaze booth. The video inside the presentation? Not all the time. The previous presentation, can you check if there is a last video you can play it for audience to see? You didn't send it? Okay, it's not there. I'm looking for Mary Afram. That's the very important presentation. All right, give me a few minutes. Yes, apologies for that. I found Mary. She's here. So Mary is representing Giz, one of our sponsors for Indaba 2023 Ghana, Accra. I don't want to introduce her. I want her to introduce herself and then proceed to the talk directly. Mary, welcome to the floor.
Hello. Sorry, I had 10:40 on my time, so I was sitting out there. Okay. My name is Mary Sewa Afram. I work with Fair Forward Artificial Intelligence for All projects, and that's a project under GIZ. I don't know if many of you are familiar with GIZ, but then I'll double down to what Fair Forward does. Is this the... Okay, so the goal of, sorry, I need help with, okay. The goal of Fair Forward is to democratize artificial intelligence. That's how we say it. And we do that by fostering local innovation through open source AI. And currently we operate in 7 countries. We are in Ghana, we are in Rwanda, we are in Kenya, Uganda, South Africa, India, Indonesia. I hope I didn't leave one out. And we do this by working on 3 action areas. The first one is access to data. Like I said earlier, we are in for open AI and open data. So we support a lot of activities that promote making data open and available to all. Why do we say that? Because we believe that startups need access to data, researchers, students, everyone needs access to data to encourage local innovation. And the second action area is also on capacity building. And so we also do many capacity building initiatives. We have a platform called Atingi, where we put a lot of capacity building resources related to AI there as well, so that others can have access to it. And usually in our partner countries, as I mentioned, usually in our partner countries, we also run these AI fellowship training boot camps for people. I think on Monday we're having a discussion about how it's always difficult to connect graduates into jobs because of the gap, and so how do we bring industry partners in place? And one thing we try to do with the boot camps that we organize is at the start of the boot camp, we try to bring local players on board, and they let us know what they expect. And so we try to create our boot camps such that by the end, the fellows get at least 3 to 6 months internships and practical training programs. And the third part is also policy. We support in a lot of policy frameworks. Yesterday also I was happy when Bridget from Tony Blair was advocating for the techies to pay attention to policy, because policy affects the tech ecosystem. So as I mentioned, with access to training data, we work a lot with international bodies. And so if you are familiar with Mozilla Common Voice, we have about a lot of data sets there which we have supported to make public. If you want a lot of local voice data, you'd find that there. And then Lacuna Fund as well. Also Radiant Earth, you would get a lot of data there which we have supported. And then for the capacity building, as I mentioned, we have the Atingi platform, which is accessible to all. You get access to self-paced AI courses, a bit about policy, a bit about how to make data available, open source, the kind of licensing to consider, and other interesting AI courses which you can do. And for policy as well, we have published, together with partners, a number of policy playbooks. You could also check those out. Why open source? I think over the days, a lot of people have been saying they are working on stuff, but it's hard to get the data. I'm doing some research, but then it's hard to also get the data. So why is Fair Forward advocating for open source? We believe heavily in the pros that open source offers. It gives chance for us to have the conversation of bias, inclusivity, and also, yes, it makes it easier for startups, for researchers to also be able to get access to data to build applications. So how does Fair Forward benefit you? One can ask, what can GIZ Fair Forward do for me? And what we offer is, like I mentioned, there are over 30 training data sets which we have contributed in making open source. And so when you visit these platforms I mentioned, you could also have access to these data. And then we also have access to some high performance computing cluster. And so one thing I forgot to mention is most of our activities are geared towards sustainable development goals. So if you have a use case you are working on that aligns, like kind of attempts to solve a sustainable development goal, you could also reach out to us if you need computing power. We can have a conversation and see how we can support in that as well. And for the capacity building activities, as I mentioned, you visit our Tingy online platform and check out the courses we have made, we've posted there. And if you are in our local operating countries, for the Ghanaians here, we are currently coming to run an AI fellowship for women. It's going to be hybrid, and so if you follow GIZ Ghana on our social media platforms, you can encourage other people who are interested in venturing into AI to join as well. And for the policy aspect as well, we have, like I also mentioned, a number of publications on policy, a number of resources on capacity building for policymakers, because to encourage countries to develop policies, sometimes there's a big knowledge gap. I don't know for other countries, but especially in Ghana, you realize that when people hear artificial intelligence, the first thing that comes to mind is robots taking over the world. So sometimes it's even hard to strike the conversation for the government to see the importance of trying to build frameworks and policies to help AI innovation in the local countries. So we work on that as well. These are some of the activities we do. And I didn't add the links here, but if you want to learn more, you can visit the Mozilla Common Voice, Radiant Earth, and also if you pass by our booth, you can also get access to all the other links. So this is just a snapshot of what Fair Forward GIZ does. We also work to ensure sustainability. One thing we do is always work with local industry players, and we always try to support. And so we have Kara Agro AI here, one of the people we work with, and they would also just give a snapshot of what they do and their activities. So, Darlington.
Hello, everyone. My name is Darlington Akogo, founder, CEO of Kara Agro AI. I'll just briefly tell you what we do and the exciting work we do with our partners, GIZ, especially for Fair Forward. Okay, so whilst we wait for the slide, I'm just going to do an improv bit. Maybe I should freestyle rap. You want to hear it? Isaac, do you think I can pull it off? Okay, no, it sounds like, anyway. So yes, Kara Agro AI, the goal is simply how can we address food insecurity, leveraging AI and associated technologies. And so there are certain statistics that drove us perfect. It's ready. I don't have to freestyle anymore. Okay. So we can just, do I have a clicker? Okay, I have a clicker. Yeah. So if you look at the problem statement as it concerns agriculture, especially in Africa, African farmers lose about 50% of crop yield every year. And at the same time, they are expected to increase food production by up to 60% in the next 15 years due to growing population on the continent. Now, if you look at some of the challenges that contribute to this, farming generally is also a scalability situation. If you want to produce more, you scale. And if you scale, then you get to tap into economics of scale. So if you look at all different countries and continents, if they go from smallholder farming and they start to increase their scale, they generally get to produce more and address food insecurity. But the challenge is that once your field size increases, it introduces a lot of complexities. So the cost of labor goes up, the cost of, maintenance, production, everything goes up. At the same time, if you look at it, one of the issues that plague farmers, this is not just, limited to Africa. It has to do with diseases and pests. Now, specifically, the range goes between anywhere from 30 to 50% of crop loss being due to diseases and pests, depending on the crop you are looking at and then the region. So looking at this problem, we decided to develop, AI solutions to address it. And so what we went with is generally the idea or concept of precision agriculture. I think there are a lot of, technical people here, so I don't have to explain every technical term. Kindly raise your hand if you're already familiar with the term precision agriculture. Okay. So precision agriculture basically is being precise with agriculture. It implies that you want to leverage different tools to, take the necessary input so input as in data that you are taking, but input back to the crops. If you want to irrigate, if you want to apply fertilizers, if you want to apply pesticides, all of them is being done in a precise way where you are giving each plant exactly what they need based on the data you've extracted. And so we decided to leverage AI and drones to be able to provide precision agriculture to address the challenges that exist within, farming, and then as a result to be able to achieve food security. So we do a number of things. This is a few list of them. We do crop inspection, early warning and plant health assessment, and canopy cover assessment. So with the crop inspection, what we are able to do is that we can fly drones, and just by flying them, we can generate either 2D maps or 3D maps. That gives you an aerial bird-eye view of your field. So you can, instead of having to manually walk across the field, which becomes super difficult if you are dealing with, tree crops even, which connects back to a project we are working with GIZ on cashew. But if you have this aerial view, you get to see everything that is happening. If you have a 3D map, you get to zoom in, zoom out, and pan and see everything. So this by itself allows farmers to be able to see a number of things that are wrong and then address them. The next bit is that once we generate these maps, we can do a number of analysis. We can, find out what is wrong. We can analyze plant health. We can find out the disease areas. We can do a number of analysis based on these maps. So these are some of the things that we've done. And all the images you are looking at are projects that we've worked on mostly in Ghana here. So this is a project that we work on. We're able to extract a number of features. So we can also check, soil quality, but then if you look at things like chlorophyll, nitrogen, maturity, which are very, very important metrics to be able to extract for farmers, we are able to do all of that. And then it goes on, we can generate vegetation coverage maps, water content, biomass yield, nitrogen, protein. So we were able to come up with some, multispectral transformations that are able to pinpoint a number of things. So for example, if you look at the image on the left, there are some disease or rusted areas. And so going through the various multispectral transformations, if you calibrate them well enough, you're able to identify something that can extract this. The cool thing about this is that, so I'll talk about the machine learning bit. It's time? Oh, okay. Okay. So I can't talk about the cool part. Okay. So the cool thing about this is that in machine learning, which comes with a lot of benefits, the holdout is that you need to collect data on the disease and pests for a particular crop. But then this kind of multispectral transformations are generalized and can be applied across broad ranges of crop. And so they are crop agnostic. There's more examples. So with some of these techniques, you can also even identify weeds and then be able to tell in your field where weeds are growing and quickly address them. Canopy assessment is also the other bit. So if you have a farm and you want to know which part of your farm is doing well and which part is not doing well, canopy assessment generates this digital elevation maps that you can be able to use to do that. So we've done this work too as well. So yeah, this is actually a digital elevation map that we generated with estimated height. I don't remember what metric this was in, but if you look at it, generally the lower regions are blue, higher regions are red. So based on that, you can tell which parts of the fields are growing properly, which parts are not growing properly, and then you can address them. This is more of the fancy digital elevation maps that we're able to generate. Even more. Yeah, and so generally this also connects to something we do, which is high throughput phenotyping. So we want to be able to impact agriculture from the stage of even producing seeds. So we actually work with this very university. We've done project with West African Center for Crop Improvement, where we would use these techniques to be able to experiment and come up with more effective hybrids or more effective varieties of different seeds. So we've done projects on cowpea. And then we also have a Lacuna Fund where we've worked on disease and pest detection. We've put together data set. We actually put together the largest disease and pest data sets in the world across 4 countries. And this data set is already available. It's on Dataverse. You can access it. And then our project with GIZ. So this is focused on cashew. And so we collected data and then built a model that is capable of detecting disease, pest, and abiotic instances that exist within the cashew field using a drone. So basically you can fly the drone, and then we built an AI platform that is able to analyze the images from the drone and pinpoint exactly where it is. And I'll showcase this for you. There's also another drone project with so we can switch to the video, and then I'll show you what this looks like. Our cool AI platform with GIZ called Caddy AI. Okay. No, don't clap yet. Don't clap yet. We're waiting for the video. So just to show you a demo. Okay. So this is a demo of the system. You can select the images that was captured by the drones and then hit scan. You can select as many as you want. And so it should take some seconds for the AI system to go through all those images. And once it does, it's able to then give you. So on one hand, we would pick each of the images. If we detect diseases, abiotic instances, pests, will pinpoint to, so we'll draw bounding boxes, but we also plot exactly where the images are, which is important because telling me there's a disease in my field is helpful, but I need to know exactly where it is in my field. So we pinpoint that, we will extract. So this, can you actually pause this part? It's fine. So anyway, I wanted to show you a bit more about that, but if you look at it, you see the bounding boxes, they pinpoint all of this. So this automates the process of being able to find disease, pests, or just crop stresses in your field. You can just fly a drone and it does this. And all of this is supposed to connect back that if farmers have better tools of detecting diseases, pests, then they can be able to better respond to them. And then they don't have to spend as much money responding to them because they can also be precise. You can automate a drone to quickly even spray the specific areas that have been detected by our AI platform. Once you do that, you are addressing disease and pests, you are increasing yield, you're also cutting down the cost of farming, and overall, we get to produce more. And if you factor in the high throughput phenotyping, so some of these varieties that we are working on potentially can increase yield by up to 10 times compared to the traditional one. So when you put all of this together, you have a serious chance of actually addressing food insecurity as it exists in Africa. Yeah. So this is just showing some additional features of the platform. So this is the about page. So this is something that we built with our awesome partners at GIZ Fair Forward, working with Mary and the rest of the team. It was really exciting, a lot of lessons learned. So this software and the data, a number of it is already open source and available. If you go to, Hugging Face, you search Kadi AI, you see. If you go to GitHub, you see it. We'll probably this week also release just the easy downloadable version of the software also on our website, where you can just download and install and then use it if you're a cashew farmer. But if you are from the ML side, you can just go to our Hugging Face and GitHub repos to get access to it. Thank you so much, and it was an honor doing this with you and the Fair Forward team.
Can we give them another clap? Yeah, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. And for the next session, I think I'm going to invite, do we have Paul in the house, or? Yes, Paul. He's representing Zindi, Africa. So if you happen to have been taking part in some hackathon here and there, trying to predict who's going to win the next election in Ghana next year, you have the data, so he's going to give you a talk on that maybe. Thank you.
Thank you. It's not working. It's working. Great. Okay, hi everyone. Wow, these lights are bright. Cool. So my name is Paul. I'm Chief of Staff at Zindi, and I like to start my presentations usually with a bit of user research. So can I see show of hands who has heard of Zindi / knows what Zindi is? Okay, that's great. Who has a Zindi account? I feel like more hands went up. That's weird. Okay, who knows that we have job and talent offerings on the platform right now? Very few. Okay, so this talk is pitched correctly, I hope. Okay, so for those of you who don't know that much about Zindi, or just as a bit of context, Zindi is a professional network for data science. We started in September 2018, so quite a similar time to when the DLI started. And I think founded for much the same reasons as the DLI was. We noticed, I wasn't there at the time, but our founders noticed a gap in Africa, that there was this growing community of people, data scientists or future data scientists, but there wasn't a place for them. And so in the same way that DLI was founded to provide a place for those people, Zindi was likewise a place where people could connect and grow and learn in this field in this rapidly changing field of AI and machine learning and data science. Okay, so I mean, broadly speaking, our mission is to empower Africans and in fact anybody around the world who wants to learn data science and wants to get ahead in their lives, but perhaps doesn't have the tools available, be that through socioeconomic reasons or whatever kind of access, difficulties with access. And I mean, there's this old adage that talent is evenly distributed, but opportunity is not. And so we want to try and provide more opportunity. So I wanted to tell a little story about one person that we've helped. You guys may recognize the gent on the right there. That is Eniola. He was the one in the very dapper, I believe it's called a kifu, the fez-like hat on the opening party night. Eniola's a very long-standing member of the Zindi community. I mean, he joined probably in the first 6 months of Zindi. He's participated in so many competitions, probably 60 or 70 competitions now, I think. And he was recruited through Zindi to a company called Benchy.ai. They're a Spanish company, or Spanish-based company, working in health, AI for health. And I just wanted to put a face to this idea that Zindi really believes we can help a lot of people. find their dream job, whether that's on the continent or elsewhere in the world. And if you're interested, you can read a little bit more about his story on Medium. So, I think that for the most part, you should know a little bit about what Zindi does. We provide competition platform, we provide a place where people can connect and learn practical skills. But I wanted to introduce another aspect of what Zindi offers that perhaps you don't all know about yet, and that is Zindi Talent Search. This is something that we launched the MVP of last week, and we're really excited because it's what we believe is Zindi's next step, which is that we have this incredible database of talent, and we want to help companies find that talent in Zindi, because we see that many companies around Africa and around the world don't really know where to find talent and how to find talent, especially in the data space. Hiring a data professional is quite hard. There's a lot of practical skills that you need to assess, and a lot of companies currently recruiting don't know how to do that effectively. And we believe we are in a position to help. So the reason I want to tell this audience about that is because this is a two-way street. It's all very well to tell companies that we have talent, but we also need our talent to know that there are companies out there looking for them. And there are things that you can all do right now on Zindi that are going to make you that much more employable and more interesting to these companies that are hiring. So I want to talk about that a little bit. So this is what the talent platform looks like right now. And our approach with talent search is that we believe that we are able to position you as a Zindi user in front of recruiters based on your activity on the platform. So this isn't a case of give us your CV and we'll hand it on to recruiters. The idea is really that you can participate in Zindi as you have been doing anyway. You can join competitions, you can make posts and discussions, you can interact, join teams, etc. And based on that activity, we'll be able to say certain things about you as a Zindi user or as a data professional, such as you have skills in Python, or you have worked on a number of agricultural challenges. And that's all really valuable information to potential employers. So this is what the talent search looks like at the moment. There's location, experience, level of education, and then you can see we also use a number of keywords. And this is, for the most part, based on self-reported skills at the moment. So, and I'll get into it a little bit shortly about how you can add your skills to your profile to make your profile stand out. So this is what it would look like once you've searched as a customer of Zindi's. Once you've searched for talent, your profile would show up in a certain way. You can see some ideas about the number of challenges that you've participated in, the types of challenges, and then recruiters can actually, or hiring managers can actually reach out directly on Zindi, send a message, and start that conversation straight off the bat. So, 3 reasons why you might want to improve your profile on Zindi. You can attract businesses to look at your profile, connect with potential employers, and then ideally get hired and land your dream job. That's the hope. So I want to just touch quickly on a few ways that we can do this. A few things that you can do right now that are going to improve your chances to show up on our talent database and then hopefully get hired as well. The first is verification. This is something that we introduced to, and if you've been active on Zindi, you may see it on leaderboards. You see a little blue tick next to somebody's name, very similar to what is now X verification or Instagram or whatever. It's a fairly well understood concept. And it's really, really easy to do. So step 1, you need to verify your email address. You're prompted to do that when you join Zindi anyway. The second is that we need you to make a submission to a competition, and that can really be any competition. There are a lot of beginner-friendly challenges on Zindi, so it should be really straightforward to do. We also provide starter notebooks, so no real excuse not to make a submission. And then the last and maybe the most important here is to complete your profile. And I wanted to show you how to do that, but I am not able to because of the setup here. So I will just tell you how to go about improving or working on your profile, and I hope that you'll all be able to figure that out. And there you can see what the verified tick will look like. The other thing that's really important to do is to make sure you make yourself visible. We're not interested in selling your data or giving anybody's information away that is not interested in doing that. So there's a fairly simple process. When you're editing your profile, there's a career tab where you can provide a lot of this information, and there's a section where you need to indicate that you're seeking employment. Fairly straightforward, and it'll make sure you show up at the top of search results. Okay. So this is where I was going to demonstrate what some Zindi profiles look like. I'm not able to do that, unfortunately, so I will just tell you that we've made a lot of changes to Zindi profiles right now. It's very easy for you to go see your profile or see any other profiles on Zindi. If you want to look at other people's profiles, you can just go to the Communities tab on Zindi. If you want to look at your own and edit it, you can just click on your profile icon at the top right of your profile, and there'll be an option that says My Profile, and then you can go there. You can also change it from there. The kind of changes that we've made to Zindi profiles and the changes that we envision for the future, we're working towards making your Zindi profile into your data science CV. So rather than when somebody wants you to apply for a job, you have to create a CV. We want Zindi to be some combination of a profile and a CV and a portfolio. So the idea is if you've participated in a number of challenges, your participation level and all of the challenges you've participated in will show up on that profile. We're also including things like number of discussions that you've posted, comments you've made, upvotes that your discussions have gotten, those kinds of things. And then we also have a medals system. So if you've performed to a certain level in certain competitions, you'll be awarded medals, and that will show up on your profile as well. We have a lot more planned. We'd like to start helping you build out your bios automatically. So based on your activity on Zindi and some information you provide, we'll generate a bio for you. And ultimately, we want this to be a downloadable CV that you can just pull from the platform and you can share around. So that's the idea. And I would please encourage you to go and take a look and please fill out your profile. I've had quite a few conversations with people today and yesterday, and a number of people asked me, what's the point of making a submission if you don't think you're going to win on Zindi? And I'd say this is one of the best things you can get out of participating on Zindi is this kind of practical portfolio of what you can do. So to summarize, very pleased to present the simplest formula you're going to see at this conference. Fill out your profile, be active on Zindi, and I would like to assure you that you'll be eligible for more jobs and more interesting career choices through Zindi. So I'd like to wrap up with something that maybe don't tell the people who win prize money on Zindi, but we've spoken to so many companies looking for data science talent, and I want to share this little secret that it really doesn't matter where you come on a challenge in Zindi. Obviously, higher is better. It's good for the ego. But when we speak to companies, all they're interested in is to see evidence of practical skills. And you can make one submission on a Zindi competition, and you will be recognized as being capable. Because let's be honest, it's really hard to make one submission on a Zindi competition. It takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of skills, a lot of fundamental knowledge. So I want to encourage everybody. I know a lot of people are intimidated by Zindi a little bit, or scared that they might make a submission and it's not good, and so then what company would hire somebody who's not in the top 10? Loads of companies, they really don't care. So I would encourage you to just use the platform to its fullest and use it to get ahead in your careers. That is all I have to say. I'm very happy to answer some questions. If you don't have a Zindi account, please do sign up. You can scan the QR code or go to zindi.africa/sign up. Any questions or feedback, happy to answer them now, or I'll be around all week. Thanks.
That doesn't feel African. It's supposed to be louder. Yeah, so Zindi is doing a lot of work, and if you have been part of any AI community that is organizing Indaba X, so you know there's a lot of hackathon there, so you can get in touch with them. I can see them, they're sitting here in front, the two of them, Paul and Rose, and they have a booth outside, so you can also grab a look at their booth next to Indaba X booth. So I hope you enjoyed the presentation. The next person that I'm going to call is Mozilla. That is Kofi Yeboah. And I don't want to introduce him more. I want him to talk about himself and what work they're doing in Africa with Mozilla.
Thank you. It looks like I've been given an opportunity to brag about myself, so wait for it. My name is Kofi Yeboah, originally from Ghana, so welcome to Accra. For those of you that's the first time here. I work with Mozilla. For those of you who don't know more about Mozilla, probably when you hear of Firefox, then that is probably known. Interestingly, this year is our 25th anniversary as Mozilla since we started as an organization. Okay, just this. Okay, as an organization, and I'm particularly excited because we are doing some great work in Africa. This couple of years, and so I'm excited to share with you what we are doing currently. So Mozilla's Africa program Mozilla's Africa program, the name of that program is called the Africa Innovation Emirati. And for those of you who are based in Kenya, Tanzania, and across East Africa, Emirati is a Kiswahili word, which means project or program. So basically what Mozilla is trying to do at this point is to see how best we can work with innovators on the continent, and also how can we ensure that the technologies that we use, especially these emerging technologies like AI, are safe for us to use. You would bear with me that, and you would agree with me that, especially when technologies are mentioned, AI, metaverse, blockchain, oftentimes is from a global north perspective. And so the narrative is always being shifted towards the global south. And we sort of have to sort of tag along anytime that kind of technologies come up. But what we are trying to do here is, how do we ensure that Africa is also part of that conversation? How do we ensure that Africa is also part of building not just the AI technologies, but technologies that are relevant for us? And so I think one of the powerful things that we have as Mozilla to our advantage is that we are both a building company, and so we have the Firefox, we have Thunderbird, we have some VPN tools, we have Pocket, but also we have the foundation arm, which does a lot of research, a lot of advocacy work to help just make the internet healthier for us to use. So just briefly, what the Africa Innovation Emirati program focuses on, as I said, is strengthening local innovation ecosystems in the global majority. Particularly in Africa, we are focusing on the Eastern and Southern Africa regions. However, our work cuts across the continent, so we just don't focus on those two regions, even though it's our priority regions. And as I said, we built product for real life and then to safely use. I think that's the most important thing. And then our movement building arm, which I will talk much about it today. So in terms of how we engage on the continent, we do a lot of grant making. And for those of you who are not in the philanthropic world, what basically means that we give out a lot of money. Please don't come to me because I have a lot of money. But basically, we give out a lot of money to support initiatives that are sort of trying to address the harms that is caused by emerging technologies, particularly AI. And some of the work that we have done is we have some community building grants. These are very small grants that we give out between up to, I think, a max of 15K for a very smaller project. So for instance, if you're undertaking a research as a student, as an individual, and then you're just looking for a small budget to sort of execute it, you can come to us and then, we can talk about it and see how best we can support. Our in real life grants are, in terms of sizes of money, we give up to like a 50K USD for organizations that are working on larger projects. And the focus obviously has to be at the intersection of tech and social justice issues. So for instance, how does technology, any type of technology, let's say AI, impact environmental justice issues? Or climate justice issues, or democracy, things like that. We actually just launched our recent research call, just looking at how AI impacts Africa in general. And I know some of you here apply because some of you reached out to me yesterday, so that's really good. We also have another program called the Responsible Computing Challenge. Basically what we are doing is that we work directly with universities to help develop ethical computer science curriculums. So we have, we started this program in the US and then in Kenya. We are doing some work in India as well, and next year we would come to West Africa and then other parts of Africa. And so for this particular program, aside that we work directly with universities, and in this sense we provide some financial support for them to be able to do that. We also have fellows who are part of this program to help sort of coordinate the program itself and also work directly with the universities. And as I said, with our philanthropic advocacy program, we just don't advocate for safe use of technology or how technology impacts our daily lives, but we also help mobilize other philanthropic organizations that are not necessarily doing work in that field, but to also sort of channel their funding into this space. In terms of convening, I think this is one of the things that is dear to my heart because we need gatherings like Deep Learning and Indaba conferences like this that brings together Africans who are interested in tech issues that are related to us and concerns us. How do we ensure that our voices are heard on global platforms? How do we ensure that even our voices are heard among ourselves? So we support financially to help organize events like that. That's why we are really privileged to have also sponsored Deep Learning and Indaba. But beyond this, we have sponsored other events across East Africa and then also Southern Africa, specifically Kenya, Uganda, South Africa, and other few countries. And it does not necessarily need to be a large conference like this, even if it's a small conference. For instance, the Indaba X event that happened in DRC, we provided support for that to happen. So feel free to reach out to us if you're organizing a convening similar to this. As I said, we run fellowship programs. I think one of our important programs, which is a fellowship program, is that we are able to sort of attract very great individuals, researchers who are investigating how tech platforms can be safe for us to use. We are privileged to be working with some great researchers like Abeba, Odanga, and for instance, for those of you who follow the Kenyan elections, you realize that there was a lot of advocacy around how platform can be accountable. It was one of our great work that we did across the platform, especially on TikTok. And then I won't talk much about Common Voice because my GIZ colleague did fantastic work around that. And obviously the advocacy work, but this is more focused on, for instance, platform accountability on the continent of Africa, because we realize that there's a lot of very narrowed way of advocating, which is on digital rights issues, which is really great. But oftentimes, it's very linear towards holding government accountable, but we excuse platforms, we excuse Facebook, we excuse Google, we excuse TikTok. How do we ensure that we encourage civil society organizations to be able to hold platforms accountable? So these are some of the, just some of the work that we have done so far. So this was in Kenya. We did a small AI meetup. It was a discussion around how do we, whether Africa will find more harm than good with AI. So it was a debate conversation that we had. This was our African Mradi Innovation Challenge, one of our biggest convenings in Nairobi. This was in June, and this was in June as well. And then this was the Africa Innovation Research that I was talking about. And then for those of you who are aware, it's from September 21st to 22nd, we're going to have our first Mozilla Festival House in Nairobi. And I'm so excited for that to be happening. And I'm sure I'll see some of you there. So that is that from me. Please, you can take a screenshot of this. If you want to reach out at some point, please feel free. And I'm here with some colleagues, including Abeba, including Kathleen. And so also please feel free to reach out to them. Thank you very much.
That's a wonderful presentation. I'm wondering if there's, I'm not going to ask this question to the Kenyans, the Burundians, the East African guys. I'm going to ask this question to the other African country representatives in this hall. Do you know the meaning of Mradi? Mradi, it's a Bantu word, so it should be able to, you should be able to at least know it. Mradi. If you look at Mozilla's presentation, he wrote Mradi, Mradi. What is Mradi in Swahili? What does it mean? It's Swahili, but what is it in English? All right, that's a small homework for you. Try to get the meaning of that. And then, because you do a lot of Mradis when you're doing the hackathons and all the other stuff, and even the small startup you're doing, you have a lot of Mradis. All right, thank you so much for that presentation, Kofi. The next presentation is the last one, but not the least, is by InstaDeep. And Alex is already here. I hope you're going to enjoy, and please ask more questions. I haven't seen anybody asking any question. Even Paul, my brother. Welcome, Alex.
Hi, everyone. This is working. Cool. How does this work? How does it work? Okay, cool. Nice to be here, everyone. So I'm going to keep it short and sweet because I know there's lunch after that. I'm Alex. I'm heading the research team of InstaDeep. You might have bumped into some of my colleagues, who are quite a few here. So if you want to have a broad understanding of what we do in the company, please discuss with them, because I thought it would be more interesting to dive into some specific technical topic with you that I've been working on the last 6 months, 9 months at InstaDeep, and that's related to how to scale reinforcement learning. So I believe you got a session from Ferial yesterday introducing reinforcement learning. So the big picture, I'm just going to remind you this. So in reinforcement learning, you have an agent interacting in the world through its action. The environment, in response to the action of the agent, is going to send 2 signals to the agent. One is the observation, so the agent is kind of allowed to see how its action affects the environment, and also a reward signal that's going to indicate how good the agent is performing. The goal of the agent being to maximize the cumulative sum of all the rewards it collects across an episode or a certain period of time. So that's the big picture. More concretely, if you were to implement that in practice, there are 2 steps generally. that you do to train an ARL system. The first one is to do data collection. So here I took the game of chess. You're going to play a few games. Sometimes you're going to win, sometimes you're going to lose, sometimes you're going to draw. Based on these outcomes, the goal of the agent is to try to figure it out what were the patterns that led to victory, or which pattern it should stop doing because it's losing most of the time by doing that. Once you figure that out, you can apply gradient descent on the parameters of your model. So generally, you would parameterize your policy using a neural network. So you apply gradient descent, and you're going to see that your behavior is changing as you apply the gradient. And then you iterate. You come back to the first step. You collect new data, which hopefully is of better quality. And over time, your agent is going to learn, hopefully, an optimal behavior. So there's been some cool successes using reinforcement learning. So they have been highly advertised. For example, controlling a robotic hand to manipulate a Rubik's Cube. You have, more recently, DeepMind who use reinforcement learning to control the plasma of a tokamak nuclear reactor. So that's pretty cool. Google AI, I believe, use reinforcement learning to control a stratospheric balloon. So they control the altitude of the balloon such that with the different wind direction, they can actually control the XY coordinate of this balloon. And the goal being to, let's say, provide internet connectivity to a specific region. And also ChatGPT, we could hypothesize that the success of ChatGPT is also due to reinforcement learning, given that the last alignment step was done using ARL to make sure it's actually a useful AI assistant. So these are all great, but often on social media and others, you would often find people asking, okay, what actually are success story of reinforcement learning? So people would generally cite these works, but there are not that many. And fair enough, like using reinforcement learning is super hard. You have to frame your problem accordingly. Sometimes your problem is amazingly complex. Sometimes you have partial observability, sometimes it's a multi-agent system. How do you deploy this system? There's a distribution shift. There are plenty of problems. One of them is also scale. You have seen all those applications, the scale at which they operate is crazy. You need hundreds and hundreds of GPUs, if not thousands, for several months to make it a success. So at InstaDeep, we use reinforcement quite a lot, so we have to tackle this problem of scaling. And so we're always looking for, let's say, improving our software stack, improving the efficiency of a system, because in ARL, even when you do research, you need, let's say, a software that is mostly associated with kind of production level, right? So you need to be able to seamlessly scale such that you can really test your ideas and really get the best performance out of it. And so 2 years ago, we bumped into JAX. Perhaps most of you know it. It's kind of the new cool kid on the block. And JAX, basically, you can understand it as simply NumPy on steroid. So you have access to just-in-time compilation, so you can compile your NumPy code. And you can also target hardware accelerators, so you can run this kind of linear algebra operation on TPUs or GPU. You also have some very cool, let's say, features. First is the VMAP, so you can automatically vectorize operations. So let's imagine you have written a tree search in JAX. You can ask JAX to automatically vectorize it such that the search can operate on a batch of observation of a batch of input. So that's super convenient. There's also the PMAP operation, so you can distribute, kind of replicate the workload across different accelerators. So when you want to do, I don't know, large language models training, well, you can have your large language model and distribute it across accelerator using a single line of code. That's super convenient. And obviously, you have automatic differentiation as a first citizen of the library. And one point I want to insist is, as opposed to TensorFlow or PyTorch, JAX is really it's more than just about deep learning. It's about scientific computing as a whole. At InstaDeep, we've been using JAX for quantum chemistry, for molecular dynamics, for reinforcement learning, for deep learning, of course, and plenty of others. So you really have to see it as much more than just a deep learning library. And so we wonder, like I think a year ago, okay, how can we use JAX in the context of reinforcement learning? And that's what I want to discuss now with you. So there are two things. Two kind of architecture to train an ARL system using JAX. The first one is called Anakin. The second one is Sebulba. These terms were coined by Matteo from Google DeepMind, so we kept them because they're pretty cool. So the first one is Anakin. Yeah. Yes. So basically, because JAX is more than just a deep learning library, we could wonder, okay, could you write your simulation engine in JAX directly? And if you remember the 2 steps I mentioned at the beginning of how to train an RL system, you first have to do the data collection and then do the training. The training is already in JAX, doing gradient descent on some model parameters, fine. But the data collection generally involves some kind of environment simulation engine that is on CPU. Now if you write it in JAX, now you have the data collection in JAX and the training in JAX. So you could actually compile the entire training loop of an ARL agent, place that on hardware accelerators, and just scale it horizontally on plenty of GPUs. So that's what has been done. Brax comes from Google Research, so they were the first one to really do that for continuous control and robotics. And we actually extended this to other kind of tasks, reinforcement tasks. So at InstaDeep, we focus a lot on combinatorial optimization problems that arise in the industry of transportation, supply chain, logistic. So we kind of designed plenty of small, they're complex, but small environment like the bin packing problem, capacity vehicle routing problem, there's some routing here. So we designed all of them because first it's quite painful to do, but now they're available and we made it open source. So it's perfectly, it's public, so you can check on our GitHub. These are all the games, so we have a bit more than 15 games. And once you have these, what you can do, oh, by the way, we also trained them and made them available on Hugging Face. So if you want to, let's say, hit the ground running quite fast, you already have baseline available. Oh, you need to charge the laptop. So concretely speaking, once you have an environment within a JAX, what you should do to train it is first write the logic of your training for a single environment. So you have your agent, it just interact with the environment, collect data, and then do gradient descent. Then what you're going to do is you're going to vectorize your environment. So now the agent interact with a batch of environment automatically. You don't have to do anything. You just vmap the environment. Once you have that, you can actually distribute it across your hardware accelerator. So if you have multiple GPUs, you could just replicate the same workload everywhere. And simply, you do the data collection, and when you do the update of the parameters, you're going to synchronize the gradient across all the devices, and this is done automatically for you using just PMAP primitive. So that's super efficient, as you can see on this plot. So here is the first VMAP I talked about. So you're going to vectorize your environment and run it on GPU, and you can see that the throughput you can get, so the number of steps per second you get, can reach 10 million steps per second, 100 million steps per second. So that's just amazing. When I started doing RL, I think 7 years ago, something like that, if I were implementing something on my laptop, it would be 150, 200 steps per second. We're now at 100 million per second. So that's blazingly fast. And regarding the PMAP I mentioned, you can also scale the number of, here's the number of TPUs, but works with GPU as well. And you can see that the amount of time it takes you to kind of train up to conversions reduce quite a lot. So in maybe 30 minutes, you have trained an array relation on a complex NP-hard problem. So that's the first, that's the first paradigm. So that's called the Anakin paradigm, and we make it available in Jumanji. So that's the library. We really hope you guys would enjoy. I think doing RL research right now is much more enjoyable than when I was doing 7 years ago, and I think that's contributed to it. So don't hesitate to have a look. The second one is Sebulba. So Jumanji and Anakin assume that the environment is written in JAX. It's not always possible. Sometimes you have a legacy simulation engine written in C++. So how do? You don't want to go through the pain of writing in JAX. So how can we still leverage JAX to train very efficiently this kind of RL system? So there have been many proposals. Most of them are very complex from an engineering point of view. It requires a lot of multiprocessing, some batching layer in TensorFlow and using gRPC and whatnot. So it's very complex. And at InstaDeep, we try to do with something a bit simpler. So don't worry about the text. I'm going to walk you to the GIF here. So you would notice that in green, you have a pool of environments. So you're going to have your simulation engine running on CPU. And here we took a single TPU v3. So TPU v3 has 8 TPU cores. We're going to use 2 of them to to interact with the environment, so to collect data. Once this data is collected, it's going to stay on the device, on the wet devices, and directly communicate the data to the learner, which are in orange here. So you will leverage the very fast communication between devices. It doesn't have to go through the CPU and then back to the GPU. It can do GPU to GPU communication directly. And so that's very fast. Once the learner gets the data, they can apply gradient descent, synchronize the weight, and then push again the new weight to the actor core in red. Once again, we can leverage device-to-device communication, which is very efficient, and we don't have to go to the CPU. So that's the logic. So it's much simpler than all the fancy multiprocessing from the previous approaches. And what is very cool is you can actually scale that horizontally very easily, because you can replicate the same configuration. So every one of the CPU is going to collect data, do the training, and at the training stage, you're going to synchronize the gradient across your entire cluster. So that's, again, it's just a PMAP, right? So you can get this for just almost a single line of code. So that's very efficient as well. And the performance is really there. So you can see a linear scaling behavior, meaning you don't pay any cost at scaling to multiple devices. So you can't do better than this, basically. So with a single device, you can get 200, 250 steps per second when you're trying to play the Atari games breakout. And if you reach up to, if you use a TPU v4-128, you can even go to 3.5 million frames per second, which is insane. And so in a few, let's say, maybe, let's be generous, in 3 minutes, you can train up to convergence the Atari breakout. When I was doing it for the first time a few years ago, it was taking me like maybe 15, 20 hours on my laptop. So that's a huge improvement. And that's really empowered the researcher to just try ideas and iterate much faster than before. So that's cool. I'm leading the research team, so for me it's very useful to have this kind of software stack, but also one of the goals of the team is also to kind of ship this kind of innovation to different products we have. So we have developed internally at InstaDeep DPCB, which use reinforcement learning for hardware design. So very concretely, the goal here is to solve the place and route problem. So you have a PCB board, printed circuit board, and the goal is you have different components on that board and you want to wire this component as optimally as possible. So it's an NP-hard problem, and we can frame it as a reinforcement learning task on which we can use classic algorithms in ARL and try our best there, but the problem is obviously very complex. From an engineering perspective, the simulation engine, if you want it to be highly accurate, is very expensive to run. It's also scale with the number of nets and the number of components you want. So it's quite a challenging simulation engine to run, and so we wanted to see, okay, how this Sebulba architecture perform on the deep PCB problem. And these are the results. So this is the baseline we've been using at InstaDeep in the past years or so. And now with the new Sebulba architecture, you can see the speed up you can obtain from 15 to 235% speed up. So that's massive. That's really completely changed the game, because now our engineering team can really iterate much faster and hopefully crack completely this problem and go to production after that. So that's massive success, and also from a cost point of view, it does not only accelerate, let's say, the training, but also it reduced the cost by 13-fold. So that's very, very impressive as well. I think that's about it. So we're going to release actually a blog post with Google Cloud on that topic, on the second architecture I mentioned, and the code will be fully open source. So really the hope there is that we provide a very good starting point for researcher to try reinforcement learning, and hopefully we can add success stories to this list I mentioned at the beginning. Thank you very much. If there's any question, feel free.
Louder, please. But I have a question for you. Deep PCB, do you have a demo for that?
Sorry. So the product is actually available online. So there's deeppcb.ai. You can go. It's free for hobbyists, so you can try it out. Provide what we call a DSN file, which is simply the board that you want to get connected, and you will see within 24 hours you will see the progress of the RL agent improving let's say the wiring of your board. So the goal is really to automate that process. For now, it's done manually by hardware engineers, so it can take weeks, if not months, for very, very complex problem, and the goal is to completely automate that using reinforcement learning. So that's a very difficult task, so that's why we work a lot on the engineering behind the scene to make it happen. But yeah, so please have a look, and maybe you can chat with Amin, who is the head of this product, so don't hesitate.
Thank you so much for that. I was asking because I'm an electronic engineer, by my background is in that area, so I'll get in touch. I hope the other engineers in the house will also be able to get in touch with him. Maybe you can just wait for those who are around to see him somewhere there. Yeah, cheers, man, thanks. Thanks, Alex. So I think we have come to the end of this session for the sponsor talks. Right now we're supposed to have gone for lunch. So I'll request you to go for lunch and then embark on the next sessions, which will also be here and in seminars as well. Thank you. Enjoy your lunch.